Hey guys, this is Miss Sims. I'm going to go ahead and do the notes, the Cold War notes part one, okay? So as a review from the notes that we talked about last time, I mentioned that the Cold War is really going to start pretty much the moment that World War II is over. So if you recall in World War II, the Allies pretty much consisted of like what we would call like the big three was the Soviet Union, the United States, and Britain. Okay, so as soon as the war is over, the United States and the Soviet Union, who we kind of think of today as Russia, that is a whole change. We'll talk about that later if we have time. But the Soviet Union and the United States were allies during World War II because they had a common enemy in Adolf Hitler, or Nazi Germany. Okay, once Nazi Germany is defeated and that common enemy is eliminated, you're going to see that now these two allies go from being on the same side to being competitors. Okay, and we're going to see that a lot of that tension is there during World War II. They're not like best friends, and then something happens. That tension was there during World War II because you have to remember, fundamentally, the United States and the Soviet Union are completely different countries. The United States is a democracy, and that is very important. The United States also bases its economy off of capitalism. And so with that, that is very, very different than the dictatorship that you're going to see in the Soviet Union and communism, which is really not based on the individual owning things, but the community as a whole owning things, which is very, very different than capitalism. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started on this. In this picture, I'll move this over a little bit. Sorry. In this picture, you're going to notice there's two men here. So this is JFK. So this is Kennedy. He is our president during the 60s. And this is Gorbachev. He is going to be one of the men that is going to follow Stalin and is going to be a leader in the Soviet Union. Okay. So that's who these two different leaders are. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. Maybe. Okay, so like I said, some things that you need to understand. The United States has a democracy, which means that the people get to vote. People get individual votes. The individual is very important. The Soviet Union has communism and socialism, which is going to together mean that the community owns everything. And the speaker for that is really going to be the singular leader, the dictator, or the government. Now, there's different ways that communism could ideologically play out. We're really talking about the way that it did play out, not the ways that it could have played out. Okay, so some of the tension is the United States was asked by the Soviet Union to come and help. The United States is going to delay that. That's going to be a big bone of contention between the United States and the Soviet Union. So that's leftover from World War II. The atomic bomb. So the United States did not tell the Soviet Union, hey, we've got this bomb and we're getting ready to drop it. And we also didn't share our technology with the Soviet Union, even though we were allies with them. And then after the war is over, the United States and Great Britain and France believe that in this post-war world, Germany should have elections, so should some of the other areas in Europe, and the Soviet Union doesn't want that. So we're going to see that that is going to start to play out some tension there. Okay, this is a picture from the movie Rocky. If you have any Rocky fans out there, you guys know that is one of the big fights that Rocky is a representative for the United States, and this guy is a representative for the Soviet Union, and this is going to be a Cold War era film. Okay, so one thing about the Cold War that's really important to understand is the Cold War lasts for a really long time. So it starts in 45, 46, and it's going to go until like 91. So 1945, 46 to 1991 or so. That's a really long time. So we're not going to talk about all of that today, and we're not going to talk about all of it this unit. So there's lots of different chunks in the Cold War. There are different real wars that are a part of the Cold War. The Cold War is really just this term that we use to describe this major tension between the United States and the Soviet Union, and it varies over that time period of how serious it gets. Okay, so after the war is over, the Soviet Union is going to have its influence in Eastern Europe. So that is the countries over here that are yellow. So Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, Ukraine, Poland, Czech Republic, East Germany. So Germany is divided into fourths, and part goes to Russia, part goes to Great Britain, part goes to the United States, and part goes to France. The French, British, and American parts are going to join together to become West Germany, and the Soviet part is going to remain East Germany. Okay, and we'll talk about some of that more later on. So these nations over here that are a part of the Soviet Union are under the control or the pressure of the Soviet Union, and we're going to see a couple years after the war is over, Winston Churchill, who is no longer the Prime Minister of Great Britain at the time, is going to give this speech talking about this Iron Curtain, which was this figurative language he's using to say that there's a line laid down, and on the side where the Soviet Union has control, we really don't know what is going on by there. And so at this time, Joseph Stalin is the leader of the Soviet Union. So you notice in this political cartoon, that's why it said no admittance by order of Joe, meaning Joseph Stalin. So basically, everything that's going on over here, the democratic Western world, so this part, doesn't really know what's going on. Okay, there's more tension. Okay, so America's response to the spread of communism in Europe in the beginning is this idea of containment. So when you see that word containment, I want you guys to think contain. We want it to stay where it's at, but we just don't want it to spread, okay? And so the way that we kind of try to keep it from spreading is we do two different things. One is called the Truman Doctrine, and one is called the Marshall Plan, okay? The Truman Doctrine is we give money to help the economy and the military in Greece and Turkey to keep them from going in the direction of communism. So if we go back to this last slide, and we look over here, Greece and Turkey, they look like, if we're looking at the map, that they could very possibly be on the Soviet Union's kind of side, okay? So that was part of the reason why so much money was put in there, was to try to keep that from happening, about $400 million. Okay, other places in Europe, the United States gave money, and the way that I remember this is Marshall starts with an M, money starts with an M, money to help these other nations recover from some of the devastation that was World War II, okay, to help physically rebuild. And so if we help them by giving them money, maybe they'll say, hey, you know, the United States, they're real nice. Maybe we want to have a democracy like them. And keep in mind that a lot of these countries already did have that. So France already had that. Great Britain already did have that. Belgium already had that. But countries like Italy, they had a dictatorship. So this idea of a democracy is new to them. So not new to them, but we're trying to encourage them to be on our side. Really, if you want to think of the Cold War, think of it as this big popularity contest between the United States and the Soviet Union. And we're trying to get every country to be on our team, on our side, on the side of democracy. Okay? All right. I mentioned before Germany. So the reunification of Germany is going to cause the Soviet Union to be pretty ticked off. Okay, so like I mentioned, and I can't remember exactly where the lines were, but Germany was divided into 4 parts. And when I say divided, it meant what country got control over, like resetting up and dealing with Germany after the war. And so France got a piece, Great Britain got a piece, and the United States got a piece. And so it was bam, bam, bam. And the Soviet Union got a piece. Okay. US, French, and Great Britain all combine theirs and let theirs be West Germany. All of this is going to be democratic. And then the USSR, the Soviet Union, is going to have their bit over here. Okay, on top of that, to make this more confusing, the capital, Berlin, is right here. And Berlin was divided into 4 chunks as well. Okay, so not only do you have an East and a West Germany, you have an East and a West Berlin. Okay, so that can get kind of confusing. All right, Berlin airlift. Okay, so let's go back to this map. All right, if you see right here, West Berlin, which is democratic, is in the middle of East Germany. Okay, so you got a little democratic stronghold right here, and then everything around it is communist. Okay, this hasn't been a real big deal. Germany's not a huge country, so to get supplies, they've just driven them from here to here. Not a big deal. Well, Great Britain is a little bit ticked off about this. They feel like they're being left out, and they don't like it. So what they do is they say, all right, well, we're going to try to kick the West or the democratic countries out of West Berlin because it's in the middle of East Germany. So we're just going to try to kick them out. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to starve them out. Okay, so this is what we're going to call the Berlin airlift. So they blockade West Berlin. They don't let any. Sorry, my brain's going blank. Any trucks or any supplies come into West Berlin. And basically, they're going to starve the people out until the people say, okay, we want to be a part of the Soviet Union's part. But what the US and Great Britain is going to do is they're going to take airplanes and they're going to drop food into West Germany for 327 days until the blockade is over. So this is a really important part. And there's called the chocolate bombers or the candy bombers. I can't remember which one it was called, but they actually dropped candy for the kids a couple of different times, and so that's kind of a cool story if you want to go back and look that up. Okay, so basically what's going to start happening is people are going to start picking teams. So remember I told you that there's kind of 2 different sides. So the side that is that the United States is on and is going to kind of emerge as the leader is going to be NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So Great Britain, France, United States, Canada, the blue countries that are right here, Turkey, Greece, are going to be right there. Okay, and so these are the democratic countries, and then the Warsaw Pact is going to come in response to that. That is going to be the Soviet Union and the nations that it controls. So this is going to be the communist nations. Okay, so at this point, the whole world is not getting involved in this, but you are going to see over time that this is going to spread into some other places, and we're going to talk about that. Remember what an alliance is. Basically, it's if anybody messes with me, then all of these other countries have my back. So we're kind of setting ourselves up for another global war, which is not really what people wanted, which is the reason why it did not actually turn into another world war, because both sides did not want another world war. All right, second, Red Scare. So red is going to be a symbol for communism. Don't forget that. That's why the communist flag is always going to be red. That's why China's flag is red. Okay, so Truman's loyalty program. So Truman, remember, he's president of the United States at this time. He starts checking the background of government officials. We also create what is called the House Un-American Activities Committee, and they start doing searches for communist spies. Okay, Alger Hiss, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. These are all stories that are coming out of this time period. We don't have time to look at this, but if you're interested, it's a really crazy, interesting time period if you're interested in spies. Bridge of Spies is a good movie that is out that kind of shows the beginning of the Cold War, that deals with spies. It's got Tom Hanks in it. It's a pretty good movie, and it's based off a true story too. So I don't know where that would be, but anyways, that's an interesting movie. Okay, during this time period, McCarthyism is going to be a big word. So this is named after the Republican Senator Joseph McCarthy, and he basically is going to claim that there's this huge communist conspiracy in the United States, and that there's all of these communist spies that are actually in Congress and in government. And he made all these accusations towards hundreds of people. Thousands are going to lose their jobs. It was kind of guilt by association. So if you were friends with or you were loyal to these people, if you didn't rat on them, a lot of people lost their job. It ended up being this huge thing because it turned out he was wrong. There wasn't a ton of Soviet spies hidden in the U.S. government. So today, if you ever hear the term McCarthyism, it means it's kind of like a witch hunt. This idea that you're believing that there's evil everywhere, and if people don't condemn it, then they are it too. So anyways, that's a very short look at McCarthyism. Okay, we're gonna skip that. Okay, so Cold War becomes hot. This is kind of the last thing that we're going to talk about, and we'll talk more about Korea next time we have like a notes thing. Like I said, there's a bunch of real wars that are kind of within the Cold War as a whole. So China, prior to this, was not a communist nation. Okay, it is going to become a communist nation, and there's going to be this huge overthrow, this revolution that takes place over time. And basically, the United States had supported the side that was fighting against communism. It wasn't enough to prevent the communist takeover. That is the reason why China is communist today. And this idea of the domino theory is going to emerge. And so I want you guys to think of like stacking up a bunch of dominoes. If one falls, what happens to all the other dominoes? They all end up falling. So that was kind of the fear with communism, is that if one country falls, the next country will fall, and then the next country will fall, and then the next country will fall. Okay? And part of the reason that fear was happening was because after China, bam, the same thing is going to happen in Korea, which is right beside China. Okay, so North Korea is going to become communism. South Korea becomes democratic. The U.S. is going to intervene to try to push the communists out, and also to keep the communists from taking over South Korea. That is why North Korea is still communist today. Okay, so a lot of the things that we're going to learn about in the Cold War is still very, very, very relevant today. Okay, and we'll talk more about the Korean War next time. Okay, so that is the notes for today, and as always, it's probably going to take forever for this to come up. All right, thanks, guys.